Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first series of the Evolution podcast, where we meet with owners of coaching and training businesses to discuss evolving their business and client impact in the era of AI. Today, we're fortunate to have Chris Atwell with us. Chris is the creator of an AI voice-to-CRM management tool. He's the author of a leadership success journal, and he's somebody who went from being a B2B sales leader for manufacturers, rep agencies, to now coaching their executives with his current venture, Mindset-Conquest. Chris, welcome. Thanks for being here, and please introduce yourself more.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ethan, and you hit the nail on the head. I run a mindset and leadership coaching business called Mindset-Conquest, where I help agencies of manufacturers rep agency really step into their leadership at a deeper level and leverage a lot of ways to create efficiencies in their business, like AI, for example.
Yep, and that's perfect segue into the fact that the episode today is going to be leveraging AI to coach owners out of overload. And kind of, Chris, we thought you'd be a great person to talk to here on both ends, because you're running your business as mostly a sole operator. And so there's leveraging AI so that you can coach yourself into being able to control your time well and be able to allocate for your clients. But also you work in an industry, of course, where my understanding from our conversation weeks ago is that the leaders are very overburdened and everyone kind of shifts their tasks to them, and it's not being delegated properly or operationally optimized. And so curious to learn more about how AI can step in there and to hear about what you're doing to help those leaders in that situation. So, and before we get into specifics, it'd be great to just hear, like your background, the story of, making that pivot from B2B sales into Mindset-Conquest. I know you also had a really interesting story about a health incident during COVID and that you shared. And so it would be great to get that background.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been one of those people who love to experience a lot of different career paths. When I was young, in my late teens, I joined the military. I was an infantry soldier with the Governor General's Foot Guards. I'm Canadian, so Ottawa is the nation's capital, and we did drill and paraded on Parliament Hill. After that, I started managing restaurants, both on the inside of the kitchen standpoint and outside of the kitchen, so in-house. And I ran my own music business for 20 years as a side hustle while I built my sales career. And my sales career took me from the logistics business to wholesale distribution to manufacturing. And I climbed the ladder from every sales role you could imagine into sales leadership, running sales teams across the country and North America. And as I would say, I don't want to say hitting a ceiling, but as I was climbing the ladder and got to a level where I was responsible for, 8 figures of business, sometimes 9, and many, many people under my responsibility, I found that I was coaching a lot. I wasn't fully aware of it at the time, but it was part of how I approached leadership and managing teams. And over COVID, much like many people, I was looking for pastimes. And one of the pastimes that I really took too seriously was my fitness. And I was training, 4 hours a day. It's one of those ways that I was coping over that time. And make a long story short, I ended up in the hospital with rhabdomyolysis. I had overtrained and exhausted my body to the point where my kidneys were almost failing. It was very painful, very scary situation. I ended up in the hospital for 5 days, connected to IVs, and it's in the middle of, the pandemic where I couldn't have any visitors. I was isolated in a room. There were COVID patients around me, and I was just kind of freaked out. And a lot of things went through my mind in that 5 days. And one of them was, what's my purpose in life? Where am I headed? And I knew that I had a calling to coaching. I just didn't know what that looked like yet. And when I got out of the hospital, I made a commitment to take my health even more seriously, which meant improving habits and routines and recovering from this serious health scare that I had that potentially could have led to death. And I started documenting my journey, habits, routines, morning routines, rituals, all the things that I was doing on social media, including LinkedIn. And I started getting clients. I was a habits coach in the beginning. Hey guys, look, it's COVID. How can I help you? Let's develop some good habits so you can show up every day, even though we're through a lot of these restrictions. And it evolved. It really evolved over time. And a few years later, I was absolutely crystal clear on the fact that, hey, I'm not a habits coach. I'm actually a leadership coach that recognizes a small part of what I teach is habits and routines, but it's way bigger than that. And here I am today. I've coached hundreds of leaders in one particular space called the manufacturer's rep space. And that came about because one day I got a call from an ex-client of mine who followed me on LinkedIn, and he said, hey, Chris, I just bought my father-in-law's agency. I need some help. I think you're the right guy. And the light bulb went off in my head. I said, these are the people that I'm meant to serve. I know their business. I understand their challenges. I know I can help. And the rest is history. So.
And just to provide a little bit more detail on, like, you knew you could help and you knew the industry, like, what specifically are the needs of this industry and how exactly are you particularly driving value for these clients given your understanding of who they are?
Yeah, so this industry is quite unique and there's a lot of moving parts, but there's a lot of similarities between everyone who runs businesses in this industry. And one of those things is that it's often multi-generational. You've got a business that your grandfather or your father, maybe your mother started, and there's now a succession plan and you're taking over the business. You came up as a high-performing salesperson in the business because your core responsibility until this point was to sell. So you manage the relationships with your clients, your distributors, your contractors, and then you take over the business. And you quickly realize that you can't lead the business while also being the top sales guy in the business. That just doesn't work anymore, right? So there's this challenge of, hey, I'm really good at working in the business. I don't know how to work on the business because I get stuck doing the day-to-day selling, marketing, IT, handling all the problems. All the sales guys come to me because I know how to solve the problem. So I give them the answer on how to solve the problem. And I'm creating a bottleneck. So that's a big challenge. And with that is time, right? Because you're doing all the things, your priorities are all messed up. And your capacity gets stretched to the point where you're working extra hours on the evenings and on the weekends. You're not present for your family. You're not present for yourself. You're not prioritizing things like your energy, your exercise, and all of this stuff. Plus, you travel a lot. So what I do is I help people create a high level of awareness around where they're spending their time, where they should be spending their time, protecting their energy so that they're focused on the right things that are going to have the highest impact on the business, the highest return, and discover ways and apply new techniques to manage all the things that you shouldn't be doing, whether that's delegate, automate, systemize, schedule it for later, eliminate it. We get really clear on all these things. And I help people free up on average 7 to 10 hours a week that they can reapply from doing all the things, the $10 tasks, to focusing on the strategic initiatives that are going to be $10,000 tasks. And with that, protecting their energy, because most of my clients end up getting healthier because they start prioritizing exercise again, eating better, mindfulness, things like that, and gaining momentum in their business so they can actually scale efficiently. And sustainably.
Yeah, that's great. I think, like, buying back time so that you can focus on yourself and be healthier, right? It goes hand in hand with the health of the business. So it definitely makes a lot of sense that you're seeing people become better versions of themselves, but then, being able to put that same time back into the business, care about the bigger picture, because it is just so easy to get stuck on those little things and get pulled in over and over again. I see the value there. I guess I'm curious, what are the main areas in which people tend to be constrained? And where do you think there's kind of an overlap between areas that are constrained and areas that AI has been able to to improve? I know that you've done some work leading people towards like automations and whatnot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of constraints when it comes to not having clear processes in place that are going to systemize things. Okay, so you've got a team that's working with you, they're all salespeople, and your system is in your head. You've been running the business, you know how to solve this problem. So what happens is, rather than your team members dealing with the problem, they're coming to you as the default, and you're kind of stuck dealing with the problem. So there's a constraint around understanding how to create systems and processes. That's a big one, okay? Another one is because they're in the business of inputting information or sharing data and information with their manufacturers partners, there's a constraint on quality of data that's actually being captured in the business. And what that does is it creates situations where when they need all the information, it's all hands on deck. Stop what you're doing. Let's fill out all these spreadsheets so that we can send it to our manufacturing partners so that we can give them the information that they need. Most of the time it's half-assed, it's rushed. And to counter that, they believe that, hey, well, if I invest in a CRM system, then I'll have all that data. But then there's a constraint in actual data integrity and entry and a consistency of getting that information into the system that's holding them back from leveraging these tools. So those are three big ones.
I mean, it's an age-old problem, right? Like setting up a system that is consistently effective and doesn't need to be like consistently changed is so challenging. And so you end up with these quasi systems that are all ad hoc. And the answer is like, you do just need to buy yourself the time to go and build a strong system that works for you. You can't just plug and play some CRM tool from the market necessarily. I mean, maybe you can in some cases, ideally, if you're lucky. But it all needs to be catered. And I think AI can definitely like be jumping in there and helping out. And I'm sure you've seen cases where that is. I guess curious kind of on the other side of, okay, this is where they might be able to get something right and you've seen some things go right. What things do you think that people in the manufacturers rep world are getting wrong when it comes to AI? Are there any instances where people are, just jumping on a tool like how you said with the CRM tool, like you can't just like copy and paste it maybe? I don't know, anything else where people are thinking about it the wrong way?
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges, whether that's with software or leveraging AI, is that they don't have clarity on who's championing that. Who's going to be responsible for making sure that there's a strategy behind this, that we're clear on what we're going to use it for, and that there's somebody who's going to hold it all together and keep the project moving forward. That's a big one because, you're talking small to medium-sized businesses where they're wearing many hats and they got these big ideas and I'm going to take care of the AI myself. I'm going to fart around with Claude and see what I can build from a vibe coding standpoint. But, they're winging it. They're winging it. And that's a big problem.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It needs to be a very professional and structured approach if you want to implement something. It can't be like that spreadsheet of data that they just threw together if you're trying to implement a system. Okay, interesting. I guess now moving like from your clients to you on the internal side, right? Taking your own advice that you're helping people out with. Curious what some of the things are that's been really working out well for you in terms of whether it's streamlining your operations or driving your rev growth. I know you told me before the call you hit a cohort goal. What's been great over the last 6 months at Mindset-Conquest?
Yeah, so over the last year, there's been a lot of progress and change in my business. I recognize that after 3 years of being in business full time, that there's a new ceiling and I'm at a new floor, and I had to strategize and figure out, okay, how am I going to break through this ceiling so I could create my new floor? And part of that was making a shift away from one-on-one coaching to more of a group coaching program, an approach where I can create a community of people who are all challenged with the same things that could feed off each other, build a network, and experience the coaching framework simultaneously as a group. And that's been a big shift. And it's really starting to come together. And one of the ways that I needed to bring that together was through messaging, right? And to get messaging out there, you have to leverage social media in today's day and age. If nobody's going to pay you if they don't know you, right? And my pipeline for one-on-one clients was healthy, but in order to really scale, I had to really increase the number of people that I was exploring, setting up discovery calls and really just identifying his leads and moving them through the sales cycle, right?
Yeah.
So one of the ways that really started to work for me last year was that I recognized that I had to be consistent on social media. And for me to do that, I hired a content manager who was really good with automation. And we started taking all of my coaching calls over the last year that I captured using an AI tool like Fireflies or Read.ai, and downloaded all the transcripts and looked for commonalities in the challenges people were facing, the solutions that we were discussing, real stories, and then taking that and feeding it through another tool like Make, for example, right, an automation tool, taking those transcripts, feeding it through Make, and then sending it to a chatbot, which was pre-prompted so that we could create content that spoke to my end user, spoke to my client. And that was a work in progress for a good 6 months. And we finally dialed in. And I feel like we've got that messaging really well described and captured and documented. And it allows us to, every time that we've got to record content, we have it all there. And it's totally relatable because it comes from real stories. So we've leveraged AI for that automation piece and also in creating the content. Another way too was that my newsletters, I was realizing that in the past, when it came to messaging, my newsletters were very educational, right? And I had to shift the way that I was connecting with my subscriber base. So I changed it to more problem-focused storytelling. Okay, where hey, here's the problem that I see in the marketplace. Here's why it's really important to solve it. Here's a real client example of what happens, the impact when you solve it.
Yep.
And here's how my framework is going to solve that challenge. So these newsletters, I could spend hours writing them out, but because I've figured out my system on how I want to tell the story for these newsletters and really connect with people, I can leverage tools like a chat bot that's pre-prompted and speak to it, giving it all the context that I want to give it about my next newsletter, and then it spits it out in a beautiful format, right? Which I then send through a second prompt, which literally pressure tests it. This one acts as a leader of a manufacturer's rep agency, and it rates the newsletter for me and then identifies improvements. And the beauty is I've been dialing in on that process, and I go through that process weekly on Wednesdays, is that my open rate on emails has skyrocketed since January. And my click-through rate for when there's calls to actions, which are always included on the newsletters, have tripled. So leveraging these tools has allowed me to dial in on my messaging and deliver it in a new way with ease because I've got a system in place and a process that's automated. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. It sounds like your CRM's like really, really optimized relative to where it was. You said there was a 6-month process. Not sure when that was, but relative to a year ago, it sounds like there's been some big changes in terms of what's working out digitally for your business, at least. That's fantastic. And I guess I'm curious on the other side of that, what are maybe like the new emerging like bottlenecks that are coming out of the shifts that you've made? Where is your time going now that you're like, okay, now this is the new 6 months project that needs to get started? Yeah.
So, and that's beautiful that you bring that up because it's exactly where I am right now. And that is, I leverage, LinkedIn is one of the primary lead generation tools that I have. That is where I meet most of my clients. So, I've got Sales Navigator, for example, which is the premium lead generation piece of LinkedIn. And right now, the next version, that next sort of tool that I want to develop, the new system, is going to be around automatically finding those perfect clients by using the filters and everything within Sales Navigator, and creating a system to connect with them quickly without having to do it manually. And then also messaging them in an authentic way to create enough conversation that they're going to want to connect with me on a call, right? And there are restrictions and policies within LinkedIn that are very, very tight around this kind of stuff. So it's learning how to do this in a way that creates efficiency for me, because I'm spending a lot more time doing that now so that I could connect with more people and fill my pipeline without breaking the rules. That's the next evolution.
No, the LinkedIn policies are pretty strict. I mean, definitely LinkedIn quickly realized as AI was starting to emerge that they were going to be a go-to platform for anyone that wants to do anything B2B, even like recruiters like that will reach out to me very frequently. I'm like, are you violating the policy? Like, does your company know? Like, how is your company going about this? And like, sometimes like very like enterprise level like operations, and you're just like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely, I honestly think LinkedIn should be not quite as strict on it. I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think it's great that people have the opportunity to quickly learn a lot about one another and be able to craft a message that is able to resonate. Like, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong or in violation from a moral standpoint of that. Though I do understand like what it would mean for their platform. Oh my gosh, like their platform maintenance costs would go through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is that the business I'm in is very relationship driven. There's a trust factor there that you build from getting to know somebody. And people 100%. Can smell the automation from a mile away if it's not done correctly. Right? Yeah. And at the same time, you know, it's finding that balance between being present and being a true person that's communicating with you and literally does want to have a conversation with you and genuinely wants to help you, and finding ways to grow your business efficiently and doing high volume connection work, because, you know, every business, it's a numbers game, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I think at least the way that I think of it is, despite using automation in my processes and not obviously knowing every single person personally before doing my outreach, I think that like, as long as your intentions with your business are pure and your mission is pure, as yours is, and as I know mine is, like, then that positive side comes out when it's able to. And so almost doing everything you can to make sure that those conversations happen. Like, if you know that the work you do is mutually beneficial, it's ultimately a good thing. It's a net positive, almost from like a utilitarianistic perspective. Like, what you're doing is righteous and beyond justified. So I think similar mindset on that that you have. I guess just building a little bit more upon that. Any other areas where you just feel like overburdened? Like, I know like you've achieved these milestones and you've got the cohorts, but it sounds like you're still really pushing the rev gen front. And trying to get in more clients. So it sounds like you do have the capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, it's also around, as my business is growing, I'm finding that I'm getting a lot of my existing clients reaching out to me for on-the-fly coaching, right? Whether that's through text or phone call, or I use an app called Voxer, right, where we can leave voice notes for each other.
Well, scope creep sounds like.
Yeah. So, right, it's creeping in, right? So it's like, okay, how can I serve them in a way quickly with advice, with answers, with, challenging them, get into the inquisition. So building some sort of agent, right? A coaching agent that is a clone of me would be something that's in my sights right now, and whether that's going to be voice generated or text generated or maybe video, who knows? But that's certainly something that's going to have to happen down the line to support, create another version of me out there that understands my framework to a T, right? And has observed the way that I coach, which is completely possible in today's day and age. So
yeah, no, it's a really good point. what you're talking about is like a second brain system, and I've made one for myself as well, and it's like extremely helpful. It even like helps me, right? Like in a way,
Mhm.
it's able to see a lot of nuance about who I am and understand a lot of different facets of who I am that I'm
Yeah.
not always conscious of. Even though like I'm more me than it is, it's sometimes able to realize when I'm like maybe tunnel visioned in a certain way and not
Mhm.
opening up to other things that need to be considered. So it can be really powerful, to be honest, if it getting a good system like that in place. So I would highly recommend it. Curious how you're thinking about the operations side. So yeah, we're adding these like new products, and like we want to potential new products. We want to expand the LinkedIn outreach approach and automate that. Anything that you're thinking internally on the operations side, or do you really just have the time and you're just like, all right, I want to dedicate the extra time that I have to the lead gen?
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful question, and I was thinking about that this morning and how I've got my system in place for one-on-one coaching for the group program, but there's some gaps that I could fill to create additional revenue sources and also help people at the same time. And one of those is creating some online courses, right? Where people can learn at their own pace. They're at a discounted rate. They're really hyper focused on different problems, and these are things that I know that I could create leveraging tools in the AI world. So
Certainly.
those systemizing that so that it's always updated and fresh, and is also spotting, hey, this might be something really important that you create a course for, and you can charge $49, and potentially you get 1,000 people, right? And creating those sorts of things so that it's not always dependent on me being fully present in every coaching scenario.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, and then that's where you start entering the area of like walking the line of what does AI do versus what does Chris have to keep doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's it's going to be interesting to see the degree to which that line blurs over time.
Hmm.
But I'd imagine, especially in your space with like trust being so important, it's going to have to be a careful one where perhaps the type of people that are using these like digitally generated courses, whether it's you on there or AI or animated, whatever it is, it's probably those people that you've built that relationship with for like a good amount of time who are interested in a service like the one that you were talking about with like the chat bot or whatever it might be. Like I'm picturing those as people who like already trust you, already trust your system. It can't be an initial delivery, but perhaps it's like a cross sell or an upsell that comes on like down the line with your clients.
Yeah, yeah, definitely those who are further on in the warm pipeline sort of thing as well. Like, hey, I'm interested in working with Chris. I'm not quite there yet, but I know who he is, and I know that there's a lot of people talking about it. So let me see what's on his website, and perhaps there's a course that, hey, I'm willing to invest in.
Yeah. I guess with that, it sounds like you have a lot of different like visions for ways to take the growth of the business, especially particularly from the product and like client acquisition side, like a little bit high level, and feel free to take it however you want to. But where do you see Mindset Conquest in 6 to 12 months from now? Whether it's you're expanding, you're adding employees, VAs, or like what is the growth trajectory look like?
Yeah, so 12 months from now, the vision is that the cohort is going to be very robust. Well, that number is going to be closer to the 75, 100 people, maybe more, right? It's a community building thing where not only am I coaching these individuals, but they're growing to a point where now they're coaching each other, because there's some who have been clients of mine for years, right? And others, and they're willing to help. I also see, yes, definitely another VA in place. I'm talking to one today, actually, that's going to be helping with a lot of these automation things, systemizing. So looking for somebody who's got some expertise in that, a little bit of responsibility there. I've got a coach that I'm developing right now that could also be a support coach, another live person. So that would be an add-on feature where anybody who's part of my coaching community, they can also seek hourly coaching sessions on a monthly basis from somebody else other than me who has different
Okay.
experience, different, but understands the framework.
Yep.
And I'm also taking this to more live in-person events. So I'm going to be hosting a mastermind in Tulum, Mexico in November, where a select amount of people will be joining me in an in-person location, private location over a 2-day period where we're going to go deep on the strategy for next year. And it's going to include not only the strategic work, but there's going to be an energy piece where we're going to do some deep introspection through breath work and sound baths as well, which will kind of add to that mindfulness piece.
Love that you're tying in the mindfulness. I've met with a good handful of coaches that are on the mental health and mindfulness side. And I think it's one of those things that executives especially, I feel like, overlook. But then once you kind of dip your toes in, like you do end up diving in, right? It's not like, I don't know. I always viewed that as, I don't know if that's like for me, if that's my thing, if I need it. And now like I'm all about it. Like take cold showers. I've got an ice bath like on the way, meditating every single day. And it really does make all the difference, especially if you're trying to enter that like, more high neuroplastic state of let me change how I'm thinking about my business and do things different, but not only do things different, but do things better. So definitely a helpful catalyst of change. I guess one like fun question that I like to ask everybody at the end is like, if you had superpowers and could immediately snap your fingers and like make one process that's maybe too difficult or whatever it might be, and you can make that one thing go away so that your 12-month vision could be really in sight and be achievable, what would that one thing be?
Yeah, like for me, it would be, there's this whole world of setters and closers, right? That you can hire in the coaching business where people are, you're paying them a certain amount of money for setting meetings for you. And when they're successful and it gets closed, they get a bonus. And that's the personal touch. I haven't explored that yet, but I feel like there would be a way for me to wave a magic wand, like you said, and create an automated process where not only could I lead generate, but also set meetings automatically and ideally close the business without even my involvement, right? All through an automated process, which is, Dan Martell talks about the sell by text approach, right? And I've had some conversations with people where I go back and forth on text and they decide to make the buying decision and boom, I'm sending them a link and everything, but there's some real time back and forth. To me, doing that in numbers would be pretty cool. So
Yes. I think that it's definitely, I mean, one thing that our company helps people do is like automated outreach and lead acquisition, of course, and getting calls put into the calendar. But in terms of going and like executing a call or diverting it away from a call, it depends on the industry you're in. It seems like yours, I think, is a little bit more skeptical than that.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Unless they already know you, in which case that goes against the point of the automated thing you're talking about, right? Because it wouldn't be an automated outreach in the first place if it's via somebody that you already know, unless you've got some way of doing your outreach related to like the LinkedIn connections of the people you're already working with. But then you're kind of going behind your back and being like, hey, I think I work with somebody that you already know, just to circumvent the process. But lots to think about there and definitely lots of potential. And there's some very idealistic things that would be great to just have happen. A bunch of clients falling into your lap. It would be fantastic, of course.
Of course. And that's, I'm a sales guy at heart. That's how I came up in my career. And I'm always thinking about new ways to increase business growth. And this is a people business. I got to connect with people and they've got to make a buying decision. So you're right though. My space, a lot of skepticism there. They're not ready. It's not mature enough. It's not something that they would even think about at this point, but maybe down the road as things evolve.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that there's nothing to be done there. It's just like, okay, what is the unique approach that will actually resonate with people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're already exploring, and that's fantastic. Awesome. And one last question for our listeners out there who might be interested in your service or industry peers who are looking to collaborate. Where might they be able to find more information about you and Mindset-Conquest?
Yeah, so I'm
and your
on
journal as well.
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, at the Chris Atwell. pretty simple. Chris Atwell wasn't available on all of them, so I wanted to create common approach for optimized SEO, and the Chris Atwell is the way to go. My daughter laughs at me. She's like, "Oh, the Chris Atwell." So you can find
Not
me
a
there.
bad branding play either.
Right? And then my website is mindset-conquest.com. You can find a lot of information on my coaching approach and the challenges that maybe resonate with you and how I help to solve them. I'm also releasing a book June 18th. It's called Momentum by Design. It's a playbook for rep agency owners looking to develop people and scale their business, but very applicable to any entrepreneur who's running their own business. Even though I wrote it specifically for my clients, that was intentional. It speaks to everyone, so look out for that as well.
Fantastic. Well, Chris, it's been a great time. Glad to have you on the show, and look forward to staying in touch. And everyone who came in to listen, thank you for being here, and see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, Ethan.
If today's conversation resonated with you and you're looking to learn how business leaders are driving value using AI, make sure to hit subscribe. Feel free to check out our other episodes, and I've also left my LinkedIn in the description below, so you're welcome to connect, and I will see you next time.